Okay, here's a new and intriguing article out by Heritage Daily out of Germany on an archaeological site that they had found that's down near Saxony. And I was going to make a joke because it's 420, happy 420, y'all, that they were growing their pot in this shed thing over here and then found an archaeological site that turned into a huge dig. Ha ha ha. So, anyhow, there's black mat layers that you can see running here and a very much thicker one running here. And I wonder if there are any dates on that and what they have found other than this extremely important find for this one is 300,000-year-old throwing stick documents the evolution of hunting. And so in this archaeological site that they found, they're accrediting it to Homo Heidelbergensis. And they say that he used wooden weapons to hunt water birds and horses. And I'm sure he hunted deer and rabbit and everything. In fact, the name of this was a rabbit stick. But Ice Age hunters in northern Europe were highly skilled and used a wide range of effective weapons. A wooden throwing stick found by the team of the University of Tübingen and the Scheckenberg Center for Human Evolution and Paleo Environment in Schöningen, Lower Saxony, Germany, highlights the complexity of early hunting. The discovery is presented in a new paper in Nature, Ecology, and Evolution, which I'll have to look up and just see what other finds they find here and what I can glean out versus what this man gleaned out to say. Research at Schöningen demonstrates that already 300,000 years ago, and they're crediting this to Homo Heidelbergensis, used a combination of throwing sticks, spears, and thrusting lances. So longer spears with ends on them that are for thrusting, throwing size styles of spears to javelin size, and then these smaller things are throwing sticks. Pardon me. Professor Nicholas Conrad and Dr. Jordi Serengeli, who led the research team, attribute the exceptional discovery to the outstanding preservation of wooden artifacts in the water-saturated lakeside sediments in Schöningen. So in like a peat bog situation, it had solidified it off in there. And I don't know if this is real or part of the place or anything, but it almost looks like I see the face of a duck if they've carved anything onto this. But I'm sure I'm just seeing things. But what we do see here is its identification plate and its look. And it kind of dies off here at the end, but this would have looked very similar to a throwing stick that is a spear thrower, where it has a hook here on the back and could throw the thing out. The only problem is it's flat more on the bottom side for some reason, they said, and that could be its sediment sitting in the layer for so long, but that would only count for so much. So it looked like it had been shaved, and I think they talk about it here in a minute. So if you look at it, it's pointed here, and it gets longer and longer and longer, and very much like an icicle. And then all of a sudden it tapers and ends. So there's a little more weight here, but it's pretty much center of gravity's a little off and low. And people would take and hold this by the end with the blade at about this level. So it really is just slightly head heavy, and launch it at targets. And it spins over and like a throwing knife stabs into its target, or hits a bird, busts its wings, things along those lines. He tells you this is the new throwing stick in situ at the same time of discovery. So there it is. And so that's whenever they found it, date card, everything. The throwing stick was recovered in a layer 132-4, which in the 1990s yielded samples of throwing spears, a thrusting lance, and additional wooden tools of unknown function. And I've done a little video that mentions that, but I just mentioned it in a side shot. But of things that are being found that old. But like almost all of these finds, the new artifact was carefully carved from spruce wood, which towards the middle of the end of last year, I did a specialty on woods and sacredness to woods, at least of Caucasian people, and sycamore and the yew tree that they used all the way from Egypt to there, and to the northern climes and stuff, and selecting these woods for certain reasons, and like oak and so on. In fact, Druid has to do, the name itself has to do with people that are of or find the oak trees. The throwing stick is 64.5 centimeters long, 2.9 centimeters in diameter, and weighs 264 grams. The cross section is asymmetrical with a round and flatter side. The use-wear analysis conducted by Verrill Rotz from the University of Liège shows that the marker of a throwing stick used stone tools to cut the branches flush and then smooth the surfaces of the artifact. So I can only glean from that there are knot holes on there, but they look like they've been shaved off, and you still see that little round there, but they've been used to do that. And then to make this flatter area, which is perhaps a holding area that makes it easier to hold and throw, you know, like a pistol grip, if you will, or an area that it's flat. And you could think of putting your thumb along it straight, like you might whenever you play golf or something, to keep it and throw it, like what's done with throwing knives. The artifact preserves impact fractures and damage consistent with that found on ethnographic and experimental examples of throwing sticks. So in other words, they've made examples of these things and thrown them into hard deals and stuff, and then after a period of use, it looks this beat up, and they go, this thing was used quite a bit. And was it thrown away? Were the people chased off by somebody else? You always wonder why stuff's left there when they go through a big trouble of making something. Did he make a couple of new ones and this was the odd man out? Did he give it away to somebody that wanted it? When they got a good one, they tossed it out? How did it get lost in the shuffle? And did he throw it at some birds in the edge of this marsh when this marsh was there 300,000 years ago and lost it in the marsh and never was able to recover it? Hey, that one sounds a little more feasible probably than the other ones. Anyhow, when in flight, throwing sticks, also referred to as rabbit sticks, yeah, see that they tell you, killing sticks rotate around their center of gravity and do not return to the thrower, as is the case with boomerangs. And no, it's not supposed to return to you. It's basically a throwing knife. This was a throwing knife before there was a throwing knife. And you could take a broken spear and turn it into one of these, and it becomes pretty useful. It's kind of like you got a rifle and you got a 6-shooter, and at a distance you really can't use this thing, so you use the other spear. But hey, if they get closer, or if I can get close enough, I'd use that. A lot of times they might use spears too, and this is like ambush type hunting, of course, that they're chasing around deer and got to get much closer than people do nowadays with a rifle in the first place. A lot of times they say they would put pelts on them so they look like them fake deer racks or real deer racks carved into them, as we've seen last year. So there's quite a bit of ingenuity that goes along with this that they found too. And this is just another one of the parts that probably begins to really destroy the out of Africa theory whenever they find this level at 315,000 or 300,000 years ago, and recently found on the Mediterranean 315,000 years ago last year. But I find most of the articles just say 300 bland, and I wonder and I fear that that's not going to be some stanchion point where I don't know what it takes people to see the difference between 300,000 years and 315 or 325, and are they going to go 325, 350, are they going to be able to say, well, it looks like 350, but just under 350, going to call it 340, or what are they doing? Because at this point, they're taking shots at 10,000 years worth of time. And a lot of what I've been talking about for these last few years developed over a 10,000 period of time. So it would just like totally leave it out of the situation if it was thrown wrong. Of course, you can't be that accurate back, but you understand what I'm saying. So they're not supposed to come back like a boomerang and stuff, and that seems to be a much later thing that shows up. Boomerangs are some 50, 60,000 years ago maximum, it seems. Instead, the rotation helps to maintain a straight, accurate trajectory while increasing the likelihood of striking prey animals. So, if you just throw a rock, you've got to be sharp enough to throw a strike to even hit something that's as big as the strike pattern. If you're trying to hit a bird, it'd be much harder. And you can imagine that if you stab or rear end the bird, it's going to hurt the bird real hard. But if he even hits it whenever it's half flipped and smacks the bird, it could cause some damage. And boy, once you get one hurt, the other people have their others things, and they throw, and try to get that bird. And we're going to spend a day duck hunting. So you have this wabbit season, and they're hunting rabbits and rabbit sticks, and duck season. And you can see the same type of thing showing up in Egyptian iconography, but they're doing different things. There's a few with slings and things like that that they're using to try to attack the birds and the ducks, and so it gives you an idea of what they may be looking at. They are effective weapons at diverse distances and can be used to kill or wound birds or rabbits or drive larger game, and they can also cause damage to game. And if you're going to find a deer or something like that and get 3 or 4 pops in him and chase him around for a while he gets scared, and you're going to chase him around for a while, he gets so scared and you can get another couple of pops in him, he'll start to go down, everybody will leave him, and it'll be all that's left to be done. But anyhow, guys, it could drive larger game, though, such as horses that were killed and butchered in large numbers and shown near lake shores. So they've already found remains of that, but remains of swans and ducks are well documented in the find horizon. So down in the level right there they're looking at, they're still finding lots of ducks and things like that these people must have used. So there's some kind of swamp like that, and you can imagine that somehow accidentally throwing a couple of things out, sneaking out, and then trying to rush out and throw them at ducks as they're flying away. Like whenever you shoot with a shotgun and you see people, they're trying to hit him. He's already thrown one, got a second shell to come at it. He's apparently already threw one before that, and it made him start flying, and he's going for it with the second shot. So, do they get lucky? And this is just a depiction of what it might look like with Homo Heidelbergensis 300,000 years ago, throwing these weight-ended sticks that are pretty much the beginnings of advanced attacking warfare, and utilizing a complex thought pattern, it seems, to have even gotten this far. And I always want to mention that they say, 300,000, so they had this at 300,000. Well, what makes 325? Will they find another one? Is it possible? It's so rare to find something of this age, and especially wood. I mean, wood just rots away. Your fence out there doesn't make it 20 years and it starts rotting away. At 40 or 50 years, it looks like stupid barnwood and has no old anymore left whatsoever. It's like the slats are still about half-assed, and that's it. The horizontals. Anyhow, they say they used to hunt water birds and rabbits. So, wabbit season. Experiments show that throwing sticks of this size reach maximum speeds of 30 meters per second. That's pretty hot. Who studies the structure of the wood used for tools remarked that ethnographic studies from North America, Africa, and Australia show that a range of such weapons varies from 5 to over 100 meters. So some of the weapons along this caliber that people use can end up throwing something as far as a football field. Whenever I was messing around with martial arts, the end of high school, somewhat, I ended up having too much stuff go on. The guy moved away, I moved away, but he was into stuff that was I thought to be odd and going out in the left field, and I didn't want to go too far with it. But he had these things that were really pretty much a straight stick with a little point on the end of it that was all drawn out like this, and not even arrowhead shaped. It was just got bigger and got not. You hold them at that end and flip it to the other side, and you have to flip it, if you're close to somebody, you wouldn't do that because it'll spin around and probably hit wrong and wouldn't have time to flip over, and so you throw it underhanded. And this is not like the ninja things that were real small. These are things that weighed a couple pounds. They were made out of metal, and I bet there were wooden ones before they were metal, and so on. You know, these sticks that aren't darts, but they're sticks, are micro spears, that type of stuff. And you mess with nunchucks and crap like that, but the chances of finding Paleolithic artifacts made of wood are normally zero, as I was saying, says Nicholas Conrad. Schoningen, with its exceptional preservation, is yielded by far the largest and most important record of wooden tools and hunting equipment from the Paleolithic. And they also say the excavations at Schoningen, funded by the Ministry of Science and Culture of the state of Niedersachsen, Niedersachsen, so northern Saxons, are conducted in cooperation with the State Heritage Office of Lower Saxony. We've talked about the Saxons and Isaac and Saka Suni and where that actually come from too in Proto-Indo-European languages, so in linguistics. So let's go back up here and take a look and thought at this. So I think it's pretty neat finding something that old, and like they say, it's impossible to find wood of that age, and it has to be under bogs and things like that that have been holding vegetation and in a peat type environment too, so it has to be somewhat acidic and locking in. It can't, or it'll just erode away, and that's the reason we don't find bones and things like that. It's so rare to find a fossil that's left over time. It had to have been captured in situ and inside of a short period of time set to where it's going to make it, and then never got disturbed. And usually we find it because some bone's poking out and disturb the rest of it, and quite often don't find pieces of it, so on like that. But this also reminds me that, you know, in that paper here that we did recently of the 8,000-year-old giant boat shipyard, the whole wharf pier that they had out there that's on the edge of the Isle of Wight, and it was under 30 foot of water, so nobody ever knew it existed in doing, but that would have been exposed, of course, at the last ice age. And it was preserved, but it's just all rotted away to just about nothing. But no, there's plankage and everything. It's just a shadow of its former self. I mean, it was made like a log cabin effect, and this now just, you can tell, wow, look at, it's a huge, there's a big O area. And supposedly, whenever they were doing it, they decided to get in over here and come in. And when they got over here, there it was too. So, very interesting. And I'll try to keep up with this. I'll try to look up that paper and see if there's anything interesting worth mentioning, and see if I can find something else to go with it and tie something together for you like I do. But pardon me. Don't be scared. It's not COVID-19. Oh, what the hell was I going to say? Don't you hate that? I'm not going to edit this out either. I'm just going to go with it. Yeah. Duck hunting. Duck season. So long ago. And so, you know, it just keeps pushing back that what we thought they were UGG and stuff of, and this is probably about it. But then we find that, man, back at UGG, they apparently for quite a few thousands of years had developed into this technology. This is not the oldest. This is the oldest ever found. This isn't the first one they ever made, for it looks like a perfected thing. And they found a bunch of them that are closer to our age somewhat. So this went on for quite some times and was in usage in certain forms all the way through pretty much to a modern day, whenever ballistics and things like that took over and people no longer use something like this. Oh, one of the things I thought about telling you, and I was going, nah. When I was a kid, we used to go to Wild West shows, and my dad was way into it and stuff. And there was this place in Nebraska called Exarban, and it was kind of reversed. And they had a rodeo and stuff, and they would have a professional show, you know, and Annie Oakley things and stuff like that. And we realized that they weren't shooting a gun with all those people in that place there, that wouldn't have been allowed, and those are just blanks. And then he picks up a quarter and switches it with the one with a hole in it. But the guys that were knife throwing were incredible. One of the things the guy did, he said that he could, hey, can attack a duck or whatever, if I, you can go duck hunting and stuff. And he had a girl come out there with a balloon, and she let the balloon go, and it was full of helium, so it started going up like that. And he whipped around real quick with a knife and and just knocked the thing right out of the air. Pop, and fell down. Wasn't going to catch the knife on the way down or anything stupid like that, but hey, you might even be able to do something like that if you got in good with it. And you can imagine these guys getting the technique down, and some great warrior that always brings the duck. Man, the ladies love the guy that always brings the duck. Yep. And that helps spurn people to become better and better at things, because man, they like the lady and the lady likes the duck. Yep. Anyhow, guys, like, share, and subscribe. We're going to move on to the next one. Quite interesting. 300,000 years ago. Duck hunting. Wabbit season. Peace.